Hi everyone, my name is Owen Magabinawa and welcome to HYVA, which stands for Hire Your Virtual Assistant. And on this blog, I try and bring on entrepreneurs to share with the community, their experience in regards to, how they were able to outsource the creation of their mobile app. It's all the rage right now. A lot of people want to go out there and create their own mobile apps for their business or service or whatever. But the thing is, you run into a situation where, okay, if you don't have programming experience, how can you do that? And hence I'm trying to answer that question by sharing with you guys, other entrepreneurs who have gone through that same journey, didn't even have outsourcing, programming experience, and were able to outsource that to a team that helped them build it. And today I have Tony DeBlau from HRforChange.com. So go ahead, introduce yourself to the community.
Hi, Owen. Well, thank you for letting me be a guest on your show. And I am the founder of HR for Change, which is a coaching and consulting firm. So involved with either career coaching, in organizational coaching, and human resources related activities.
Okay, definitely. And so the thing is, I'm trying to figure out, well, how did you get to the point where you felt that you had to even create an app?
Well, it's actually, like a lot of those stories, it's born out of need. And the need in this case is that a lot of managers going through the coaching process, dealing with people issues, have often come to me and said, I'm in this situation and what should I say? And so that's what made me think, like, well, I'm interested in learning more about the app world, more than just being a consumer of them. So I have this need to help managers with everyday workplace issues with their people. So how can I go about creating something like that? And I did some research and I looked at apps that could have been similar. I didn't find anything that was what I wanted to do. And then there was the inspiration to go ahead and build it.
Okay, and so just so that the community understands what your app does, just give us a quick overview of what exactly the app does for the user.
Sure. So the name of the app is iPocket Coach, and I designed it for, of course, the iPhone originally, and then now it's for BlackBerry as well. And what it does is it gives managers scripts and guides to everyday people issues. So it could be hiring, firing, feedback, conflict, a variety of different occurrences that happen at work. And the way it's designed is the manager selects what the subject is. So let's say it's feedback. And then there's a small little summary of what you should generally get out of that subject. So obviously I can't account for every possible scenario, but if I can at least give people bullet points about what generally comes out of giving, in this case, positive or negative feedback, then that at least puts them in the right mindset. After that, they select the situation. Is it feedback to an employee? Is it feedback to your boss? And then they select that, and then they have a starter script. And that's what really gets at the heart of the original need was, I need to know how to get things going. Again, it's not a full-length thesis script because, again, I can't account for every scenario, but at least it gets them in the right mindset. And that's important when things are happening rapidly, where you can't reach for a book, or you don't have the time to go mess around on the internet, or you just don't have the luxury of a more in-depth conversation with, say, human resources or something like that. So it's not the full solution, but at least it gets you in the right direction, thinking about what you should do.
Definitely. So basically, it's kind of like kind of action steps on what they should do as managers facing certain issues. So if they have something that they're dealing with right on the spot, they can search your app for keywords that match what they're looking for, and then you give them bullet points as to, okay, take this action, go ahead and do this, and then they can use that and implement it while live on the field, right?
Correct. Absolutely correct.
Okay.
That's why I call it iPocket Coach, because it's a coach in your pocket.
Great, nice name too. And so you decide you want to actually, implement the app. Walk us through the entire process that you went through. Challenges as well as success with the stuff. So, go ahead.
Well, I started with a number of constraints. Even though I work in Silicon Valley and I know a lot of engineering folks, getting access to people who are iPhone developers is not as easy as it seems. Even though this is the heart of where Apple and everything is. So I didn't have any resources that way. The ones that I could find that were individuals were ridiculously expensive because because they could do it because it's such a hot market.
Yeah.
And a lot of consultants in that area. And I know some programming, but mostly web-related stuff, so I didn't have any basis from there. So I was really starting from scratch. I mean, I kind of had the content in my mind, but not much more than that. So yeah. I looked at the online project-based sites like Elance, Guru, Hire a Coder, or Rent a Coder, I think it is, and started looking through there, and I thought, even though this isn't something I'm patenting, it's still intellectual property.
Yeah.
And I was concerned. I wanted to find a firm. I was really not that keen on individuals because these days, even if they sign an NDA, you're still not 100% sure that they don't just, disappear on you. And that's the challenge. Even with Elance and Guru, you get individuals on there. So I ended up going through a firm via Elance. They seemed to check out. They had, good credentials, but they were in India.
But I have a question before you go, because anytime you say something, I want to dive in. You said that you wanted to go with, you preferred to go with a firm that was working on those websites that you suggested, like Odesk and Elance and all that, as opposed to going with one person. I'm confused. Why was that? What was that reason again?
Well, it was mostly because of my concern of security with an individual.
Okay.
So if there was at least something I could check out against the firm, that's easier than checking out an individual that I didn't know. I mean, if it was an individual that I knew that came from a referral, in my price range, it would have been fine. But unknown, especially when they're outside of the U.S., I was a little, concerned doing that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And so you decided to go with a firm, and what exactly do you do to actually check out the firm to make sure that the firms were actually, the firm you decided to go with was the right firm?
Well, yeah, basically I had looked at the credentials that the Elance system itself puts together that seemed to check out. They have these codes, certified vendor, verified and so forth. So I felt pretty comfortable with their criteria. I looked at their portfolio and asked to get some feedback from references who rated them highly using the Elance system, and got feedback that way. And then, of course, just general questions before I accepted any bids through the Elance messaging process. So I got as much as I went as far as I could to feel comfortable. And of course, I still had them sign an NDA before I sent over any of my specs.
Okay, so you actually had them sign a non-disclosure that your intellectual property as a result of the app was going to be protected. Okay.
Correct.
So go ahead. From that point, what was the next step you went through?
So the next step is we determined a price. And again, when you're dealing with offshore, in this case India, it tended to be more in the price point of someone like myself who doesn't have, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to build, an app. And that's one of my learnings, is that you think these apps are fairly simple. Mine doesn't have, a lot of game, motion or anything like that. You think those are the most expensive. That's not true. It's because the very nature of the system is the way it is. People can can charge a lot of money, even for simple, mostly text-based apps like mine. So that was already my first kind of lesson. But they made my price point. It was great. So after that occurred, I had to send them a statement of work. And I think that's probably, for anybody looking to develop an app, you have to get your statement of work rock solid, crystal clear when you're working with developers, particularly ones that aren't local to you, and offshore and different country and all those things. And so I spent a long time developing the document with the content. I knew the way I wanted it to flow. I had a sense of what the user experience would be. So I had a lot of that going in. If you don't have a sense of that, you just have an idea, you really need to drill into your provider that they have a creative side, because I figured that out very quickly working with the company that I worked with, is that they would deliver the app as I gave them the statement of work.
Yeah.
If I wanted to have all kinds of creative discussions, that wasn't going to happen. And I find that a lot with offshore developers, is they tend to work well from very detailed specs, but if you start saying, well, I don't know, what do you think? What about this color? What about this? You tend to get disappointed. And that became difficult, of course, in the first few prototypes, because the vision translated, as you could see that on the phone, it was working functionally the way I had intended, but it was lacking a little bit in terms of some pizzazz stuff. So that became, again, this iterative process. And I did everything through Skype and through email. And because I'm in the Pacific time zone, most of it was late at night, so that sometimes was a challenge. But surprisingly, with all the back and forth and nothing live, nobody in front of you, were able to come up with something.
Definitely. So it seems that as a result of you, working with them and trying to see if they would be able to handle some of the creative parts of the process, where you're trying to say, okay, this is my idea, see if you can build on top of that. That wasn't working. You figured out that the best thing to do was really zone in and outline everything as detailed and as exhaustively as possible, so that now they see what they need to do and they just go ahead and do based on the instructions. Let's dive into that a little bit, because that's an experience that a lot of people will also have in terms of challenges. What exactly did you do when it came to really, when you figured that was the issue? What did you do to really outline what you need done? Maybe there's some tips in there that we can learn from.
Sure. One thing, of course, is that when you create a statement of work, you take high-level issues and then you break them down into subunit tasks. In the beginning, I didn't do that. It was more just one big fat document with, okay, this section, then text, this section, then text. But when you're programming, you have to take that writing and break it down into tasks that a programmer can make sense of. So, for example, when you say, press this button and the user will be brought to this screen, which shows this at the top, this in the middle, this at the bottom, the scroll wheel on the right. I mean, it's down to that level of detail, as opposed to saying, they press this button and they go to this page. Again, that's where if you had somebody who had more of that creative tendency, they would have maybe interpreted what you meant.
Yeah.
But I was noticing that in some of the first prototypes, a lot of these things that I assumed they understood to be there were missing. So that's when I had to kind of go back and revise parts of my statement of work to end up with these very task-based definitions, so that it was clear what I was doing. And then the other thing that I started to do is just draw a picture of the phone.
Wow.
so that I would say, I kind of had squiggly lines for text is here, and then I draw in, graphic here, whatever. And when you look at my app, it seems so simple, so straightforward, because it is mostly text-based. You'd be surprised to think that there was that amount of granularity into it, but there was, and so a lot of people I've talked to who are also thinking about individual app development, that's what they ended up doing, is they just took a bunch of pictures of the phone, and they would just kind of cut and paste different pictures and images and text, photocopy it all, and then send that along with their statement of work to get it done. And I think that, that's something that I'd probably do next time if I don't have somebody in front of me.
Okay, so I see what you're saying now is you had that detailed outline of, what each functionalities has to, happen in the app, the task that they need to do so they can, go straight into that document and look at, okay, this needs to do this, and they go ahead and program the work for that. But in addition to that, to add a picture element to, okay, how, this is this task, but how exactly do you actually accomplish or get to that point of achieving that task on the phone? You actually added I guess sketches of the app itself and maybe icons and all that to relate it to them. What tools did you use for that? Was it just simply you just drawing and outlining it, or did you use any kind of tool to do that?
Yeah, no special drawing tools. I would either hand sketch it and then scan it over, or I might do it in PowerPoint or something, because in PowerPoint you have the animations. So I could create a presentation and then say, okay guys, put it in slideshow mode, and then it actually would look like mimicking the animation of how I would expect the user experience to work. So that was pretty simple. And also keep in mind, I didn't have a Mac.
Okay.
So, part of this process, I had an iPhone, okay, but outside of that, I said if I wanted to learn how to be more than just a consumer, I need to go on the developer side. So I actually purchased a developer pack, which is like $100 from Apple, to put me in the environment of how you load all these apps. So while all this development was going on, I was familiarizing myself with the developer environment, and part of the reason why I did that is because obviously the app development people are more than happy to go in and load everything for you, right?
Yeah.
But the challenge that I had is there's no sufficient, to me anyway, sufficiently clean way. You can designate somebody as an admin with limited responsibilities, but when you go in and enter your account, you're entering all your info. The bank where your royalties get paid, your social security number, all this stuff. And I thought, in the world of hacks and identity theft, I thought I better control loading the app and everything myself. So I was educating myself on how to do that, it's much simpler with Apple than it is with BlackBerry. They approach it a little bit differently, but Apple it's a little bit easier. But you have to understand what all the terminologies are, and mobile packets and download packets and all these things. So without a Mac, I was limited, and I would have them have to create what they call keys that allow me to do what they call a distribution license and all these things, because you get that key from a program within the Mac. So I had to ask them for that, to give it to me, to upload, to do. So it was a kind of a little bit of a interesting process doing it that way, but the point remains that this app was created without me having a Mac to do anything with on the upload development side.
Definitely. I also think that there is also some kind of branding benefits that you get when you are in control of that submission process, which I'm sure that you probably noticed. And in regards to having your information safe, if you're the one who created the developer kit, like you called it, if you got it, now when they're done, you now basically upload all your information in there, and you're in control of royalties and all that, like you said earlier on. And I'm curious, since you were coming into this without significant programming experience in how to create apps for mobile phone, when you were playing around with that developer kit for the iPhone, what challenges did you have with it, and how did you even overcome those?
Well, really, it's just understanding the terminology of what these different packets that they ask for mean. and there's a pretty robust support section, and Apple's pretty good if you send them, customer service email or related requests. They were helpful. So it really didn't take much to get past that and go through my checklist of what was required to actually put this app in the store. And there's a number of walkthrough processes outside of the actual software file itself. That what is the parental rating, the actual text that you see in the App Store. All of those are step-by-step, menu-by-menu walkthrough items, so it's not really that complicated.
Okay.
So that was the good thing. It's like, so once I understand what I needed on the technical side for the file itself, the rest is pretty straightforward.
Okay. So Apple took a great deal of time to really outline the entire process from the developer standpoint of having that developer kit. So you knew, iteratively what different steps you needed to do to basically have the entire package, the software itself submitted into the thing, and you're done.
Right.
But you also had the challenge of really trying to understand the terminologies that they used.
Right. No, I would definitely recommend people get their own developer kit. I mean, you have to if you want to sell it anyway. But I think that it's important for people to have that control. Again, unless you have a person or a firm that you totally trust accessing all that on your behalf, not unlike web developers who have complete access to a client's website and database and so on. So really the challenge is keeping up with it, because if something changes, so for example in the beginning Apple rejected my upload after I'd wait 3 weeks. After that, they rejected the upload, and the reason they objected was it said something extension is not correct. So when the developers put the actual file together and sent it to me, there was something that was missing, and I had no idea what that was. So then you had to go through and figure out what it was, and then reload it, and so forth. So I started to become very adept at understanding, that process. And and then other than that, it existed and remains, in existence in the App Store. And anytime you wanted to do updates, like a lot of apps, if you go to them every time and again, it'll say updated, now. So that piece is really easy. You log in, and that is just a free text field. And then you update and click Save. So that part, no problem, right? And so, from that point forward, if you do nothing else, you can just check your sales trends and, units on their iTunes Connect site. So Apple really has, now that I work with, seeing the BlackBerry side. I haven't worked with Android yet, but they've really made it easy. So I figure if someone who isn't a programmer, didn't own a Mac, can go and understand the basics of owning their account as a developer, then it's really just gets back to the right idea, well-framed idea, with the right team to execute it.
Definitely.
And of course, during all this was happening, more and more tools came out of do-it-yourself iPhone kits. And the problems that I looked at those, and I thought, well, gee, maybe I can short-circuit some of what I'm doing. The problem is that a lot of these are, as you would imagine, like a WordPress template or whatever. You start off with a basic template, and if you still don't know your way around manipulating that stuff, you run into the same challenge as if you're doing it from scratch. And so some of these templates work for people who want very basic information. Maybe they want a free app, just to brand themselves out there. Those are great. But if you want some interactivity, some level of sophistication, all the tools aren't there.
I see the point, because when you start with a platform like that gives you that basis where you can add your stuff on top of, you don't really have the ability to change certain things around. You're just only going to build on the framework that they allow you. But if you really wanted to, like you said, have that interaction and really brand, your app, then it's always the best idea to go from scratch. And since you were saying something about, you said something about like how you turned in your app, the completed app, and you took 3 weeks to get back word from Apple that something was wrong, and then they now sent, I guess your developers sent you a new code or something, and then you send that in and that fixed it.
Right.
What exactly do you think you could have done better with that situation in order to have avoided that situation of them saying that some extension was missing? I'm trying to figure out if there's something you learned from that experience.
Yeah, I mean, that one's a little bit tougher because I relied on the developers who know this process well, what I should have in that package. So I think a lot of things that can go wrong happen to be on the testing side. So when you end up having sort of a dummy unit that you're testing on, which the developer center allows you to register a device to do testing with, most of the time that's where the short circuit is, that it works on your device but it doesn't work on some other version or something, and then you load it like that and it comes back with an error. I think this was just a simple matter of omission on their part. They forgot one of the distribution keys that needed to be in there. So I don't know if there's much of a lesson learned. And I rely on the experts to give me what I need.
Okay, I was just thinking maybe there was something missing in that process, so it was just a simple omission on their part. So, but now you said something about testing, because part of the process of getting the app ready for launch, I guess, is making sure that it's tested and it works. So, what was your experience with that, and how did you even go about accomplishing that? Is what I'm trying to find out.
Well, it's not without its maneuvers. Again, when they send me the package that would open up the app, you have to go through iTunes, and you have to add that packet to. They send you. You can go on it scans your desktop, and you add this packet. That packet then becomes readable and downloaded against your device, and then you open it. So it's exciting because even though the app is not real yet, because it has that quality where it's showing on your phone, you have that sense that it's real. And of course, if you haven't finished all of the application, of course it'll end. It'll crash. It'll turn off for the pieces that were missing. But it gave me a sense of, okay, this is what this thing's going to look like. That's where I discovered many of the issues of like, that functionality is not right, or it's missing a scroll bar, or something, which then led me to make the sketches and to do other things to make those fixes. The best part of that test process, and RIM again has a similar way of doing it. It can load to your device and you can open it and play with it. The biggest thing that process does is it shows you the functionality, and it can have all the prettiest backgrounds, graphics, motion stuff that you want, but if it doesn't function in a logical manner, then your user experience will be horrible, right? So to me, those particular issues are key. And certainly when I look into, my intent is to have this app be more expanded, work on the iPad, get into the whole tablet culture that we're moving into. I'm going to pay special attention to that, because now the user experience from something this big, goes to something this big. And so errors or movement problems become magnified.
Emphasized, yes. Definitely. And so one thing I'm also curious, because you have this ability to test the what you're building on the iPhone. But you only had maybe one iPhone, one model, maybe the iPhone 4. I'm assuming. Did you go the extra step to try and test it on the various other versions of the iPhone that they have to see how it?
No. Yeah, the way that their code works, for this type of an app,
Mm-hmm.
it was fine. I did test it on an iPod Touch, so I tried it on that. So I forgot what version the iPhone was at the time I put this out there, but yeah, I mean it still works across. That's a standardization thing that Apple builds into their expectations when you
Platform. Okay, that's
the
good
only
to know.
thing is, yeah, the only thing is, of course, what it doesn't do is scale currently to iPad. So if you're an iPad user, you can download the app, but it looks, this big.
Okay.
Your tablet, and if you try to expand it, then it gets all pixelated.
Yeah. Okay. Definitely. So, I guess now you decided that you wanted to also, let me even let you guide the way the interview is going to, because at this point now we are in testing. What was the other point of the whole discussion of your whole journey of creating an app that you think we need to include into this interview?
Well, again, the main thing was being able to see how fast and how simple I can take an idea for something that's service related. This isn't really an app that's meant to make me tons of money. I mean, the apps that make money are games, things that are highly interactive, things that, again, get into that $10,000, $20,000 price range to do right.
Yeah.
This was just, I'm a service industries guy. I had this need with what I was doing. Business apps on iPhone are, I think, the lowest category of adopted apps. So it was really, can I do it? What's involved? How can I become a better consumer in terms of understanding? And my app's only 99 cents. I did that on purpose because I figured, I'll make a little something back, but not much. But then I started to appreciate pricing.
Yeah.
So when I started looking at, apps that were $2.99, $3.99, $4.99, I was thinking like, well, these apps better really, really, really be good. And I found that several were not. Yeah. And I got in this whole philosophical debate of, well, they charge that much because they need to earn back. Again, if you're spending $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 to develop something, you got to make it back. Mm-hmm. And they were trying to push that onto the consumer and say, well, okay, $3.99 times 20,000 downloads, and again, even the really, really good apps that were more than $2.99 and up, mm-hmm. They really weren't that good to warrant that price for such a small device. I mean, iPad, different story. You have more square footage to play with stuff, but for such a small device, you have to keep in mind that it's simple, fast. That's mostly what these apps are supposed to do. And so I feel good that I went in thinking, keep it cheap, in terms of the price point, 99 cents being the lowest price you can enter with. Keep it simple. And really just kind of step back and say, did you achieve your goal, which is solve a need, which I did, do some branding along the way that, as an individual developer, which I think I've done, and, does it give me a better appreciation of the whole world of apps and what it means for business and expanding your business and expanding your awareness as a consumer of these things, and that's also true. So I did achieve all of the objectives I had going into this project.
And just so the community understands, the entire process from idea to actual, contacting the actual developers to help you, and then also submitting the entire project to iPhone until its actual release onto the market. How long did that take you?
Almost 6 months.
Was there anything that you think you could have done to make that faster?
Well, the Apple approval process, that's always, you never know, right? You know, the people had warned me going in, it could, you know, they could do it in a week, it could take a month. It really sort of depends. Now, after I had the error come back after almost a month, when I re-uploaded the new file, it only took another week, and then it was approved. You know, again, I think that the longest amount of time is the fact that I had you know, a development team that I couldn't readily just pick up the phone or email, you know, because again, they were in a different country, 12 and a half hours ahead of me. So I think there were some coordination issues that could have been probably tightened up.
In the beginning, okay. Yeah.
You know, the statement of work, going from the mass to the pictures and the sub-task thing. I could have done that more up front. But, you know, I work for a living. I have a lot of different types of things. This is all nights and weekends kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and for, again, a relatively simple app. So I guess the wisdom would be really understand that besides your budget, that mentally you are very clear and very committed to what it is you want to have built. Do the research, see what's out there, and you know, if you see something that is more or less what you have to think about, well, do I want to, this app has the idea I had, do I really want to go through the time and energy and money to build something that's already, you know, out there? Now, I'm all for competition, and everybody's got their little kind of flair of things.
Yeah.
But all this time later, because it's going to be almost, what, a year and some change since this app has been out, to this date, you know, when I go back and check, I don't see anything that's, you know,
that's similar. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sophisticated in that way. There's a lot of career-related stuff, you know, resume, interviewing, you know, some basic coaching, but it tends to be that self-help Zen type of coaching stuff. But as far as something that can be used in business, something that relates back to the need that I had, I don't really see it. So that's why I'm excited to go into the updating process, knowing what I know, but now developing for a larger platform, which is the iPad, which means it allows me to do more stuff. Because quite honestly, I went in with more stuff. And you know, when I saw what the budget was going to be, what the time constraints were going to be, I had to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
So now
and
this
it also gets back to the fact that I'm sorry to cut you short, but it gets back to the fact that you're talking about a cell phone, which, you know, the user who's using it has limited abilities of what the phone can do. So you had to get back to the bare bones of what your app should do. Hence, all the fluff was taken out. You just concentrate on the core stuff. I like that.
No, absolutely true. And I've received a lot of criticism for that.
Well, as long as you're getting criticized, that's room for improvement, I guess. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Now, it's an interesting world, the world of apps, because you have so many businesses who have unlimited budgets, and they throw apps out there that are
useless.
They work quite well, and they're free. Mm-hmm. So even though mine's 99 cents, some people wanted this app to do all kinds of more sophisticated things, and I kept saying, it's 99 cents, guys, you know? But there's just this attitude of consumption that because it's so saturated with everybody trying to make a name for themselves with their apps, they're willing to do very sophisticated, beautiful apps and give it away for free. So if you're into that mindset, when it comes to the individual developer who's not a developer, who's just some guy trying to put something out there, you're competing with that mindset. And so, you know, that's been an interesting behavioral study in, you know, what people consume, how they consume it, and their reactions, you know, to it. I think that in the early days of the app world, you could get away with a lot of junk.
Yeah.
That had even games that were really kind of blocky and simple because it was cool. It was on my phone. It's a big deal. But now that we've been in this cycle for quite a while, and again, we have the competition of tablets being the standard for a lot of people, that competition is now just gone, it's multiplied exponentially for the individual developer, like me, who has to pay for everything, who has to define everything. It changes it. But given that all this time later, I still get a pretty healthy amount of downloads, so people are discovering it. Now that iPhone goes on Verizon, that'll be a whole new audience.
Oh yeah,
going to come in. Ironically, iPhone sales for me are still better than BlackBerry, which you would think my app is more targeted to the business person, and RIM still is a higher penetration than Apple, than iPhone in business.
In business, yeah.
And
that's also a good segue too, because I wanted to find out your experience with. We've understood how your journey with the iPhone Apple market, but now you took the time to create the app for the BlackBerry. First question is, why not the Android? Why didn't you jump into the Android? And then the second question is, let's talk a little bit about the experience now on the BlackBerry market.
Sure. So BlackBerry, simply because of the nature of the app, it's a business app, mostly going to be used by people in workplace situations. And so it just made sense that would be the next platform.
Okay.
And I was able to use the same developer who already had everything, and they could convert it to a BlackBerry platform. So that process was useful because it went much faster.
Okay. Okay.
But the developer tools on the BlackBerry aren't as straightforward as an Apple. So you had to learn to navigate a little bit differently, and that was fine. Again, I learned the same thing. At the end of the day, it's still the same thing. You have a file of code, you load it, you have a little picture that a little graphic icon that's going to be for the store front. Mm-hmm. There's the icon that goes on the actual device. So it's the same checklist, more or less, and it got accepted. I think it took from upload to acceptance. I think it took only 2 weeks.
Wow, that was fast.
Yeah, it was very fast. So because I had the same development team who had been spending a few months working on this, they understood what they needed to do, what it needed to look like. The only difference is, of course, with BlackBerry, you have so many different device models.
Yeah.
So we had to tweak a little bit about which models it would work on, because some were more like the Storm, and the more touchpad graphically intense could do like the iPhone. But then there were other ones that weren't that way, where everything had to be a touch to go to the next thing. So a little bit less graphical and more just text. So we had to adjust for both versions.
So it's really a thing of understanding the restrictions of the platform, or not necessarily the platform, but the market you're trying to go into, and figuring how that will play into the creation of or the remake of the app for that version, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is there's nothing like that on the BlackBerry App Store. It's like I thought, okay, this is going to serve the need a little bit better, but it like I said, it worked out fine at the end of the day. Again, not as sophisticated as Apple in some ways, but still reaching the target audience that I think this app is designed for.
Definitely. And just before I let you go, because there's a point that you made that I wanted to touch upon, was that you said the apps that are out there, they have a lot of them, a lot of versions, but of competition. But yours, you felt it was very unique. Maybe you might just be the only one in that very category. So I look at it like okay, the more competition means that the less kind of marketing I might have to do, because people already have an idea, and there's so many different versions of that type of app. And so, okay, just by the mere fact of that, I'm going to get some kind of marketing juice from the fact that there's a lot of competition. But you're in a niche where you're the only one, right? So how did that play into your marketing? How did your marketing of your app change for the mere fact that you might just be the one trying to introduce someone to something they've not even thought about or a new niche? Do you understand my question?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I did put a press release out there. I did build a basic website just to talk about what it is and, how to click to purchase. So I did that. There were several of these app sites that review apps and offer that, so I hit all of them. Within at least Apple, you have a certain amount of bank of credits where you can send a special code to allow people to download the app for free.
Yeah.
So I used that with certain reviewers, and some of them did respond. In one case, bnet.com had put a nice review. You never know what you're going to get, but
Yeah.
got a nice review saying it's on-the-fly management guidance, and that was great because that's exactly what it is. It's not meant to diagnose any major people issues that you have going on. So I felt good that a site like BNet, which is business, understood that, and so I spent some time with that, and of course, blogging where necessary, and friends and family saying, please download, tell me what you think. So that was really my main, push. But I would say people have to realize is that it's, if you come up with an app that's within this sort of genre, it's not a game, it's not one of these lifestyle apps or something like that. It takes a while for the adoption to come. I mean, in the beginning, yes, I had a lot of downloads in the beginning because I really pushed hard. But when that tapered off, so did the downloads, right? It's like it was the flavor of the month because I pushed it hard, and then it's sort of, it's not a game, it's not one of these things, so it kind of tapered off. But now, because of other stuff that I've been doing with building my brand and blogging and so forth, people pick up on it and say, oh, he's got an app. Let's take a look at this thing. And that's like driven more and more of those downloads. So you have to be patient with this process. But absolutely, from a marketing perspective, is you should bake into your budget some minimum things like a press release, like these reviews I didn't have to pay anything, but some offer paid reviews if they like it, and there's some that are kind of scammy and some that are reputable, so you have to research that. But it wasn't that much more cost to help get the word out there. The other thing is I did for fun is I just did a little skit on YouTube where I pretended to be a senior supervisor telling a manager on some employee action, you should go do something, and the person's thinking, what should I do? What should I say? And they pull out the phone and they do a little, check. So, again, that's no cost.
Definitely.
And that helps.
I like that because, the idea you create an app and they'll come, I mean, in the blogging world, for instance, or just in the plain business world or building the business and thinking they will come, won't come. They won't come just based on that, except maybe you build something that is super extraordinary or whatever. But in this case now, we're talking about an app, and that idea of marketing, continuously keep that flow going so that people can come back and see the reason for your app and hopefully download it. It seems that you're continuously marketing, continuously via your blog, putting out the word out there about the benefits and all that, and as a result, people download the app.
Yeah, you have to, and also, just partnering with people, who are in that space. On the website, I put a link to Amazon for books on management, because it's true. It's like, this app isn't going to replace a 400-page manager's handbook.
Definitely.
But are you not going to be carrying around that 400-page manager's handbook at all times, right? So I try to find things that it could complement with, and it's, again, I think for what I achieved, simple app, got it out there. I'm happy with what I achieved and what's done as far as downloads. It's several thousand downloads by now. And looking forward to the update where I can put more of that detail, certainly as far as the iPad is concerned. But the one final kind of thought I would have as a giveaway for people is the question that I always get asked, which is exactly what you'd ask, why Apple, why BlackBerry, why Android, WebOS, with Palm, or Microsoft's operating system, what would you do? Well, I don't have the money. Each one requires a different level of software, like Symbian. A lot of Nokia phones are on Symbian, and the developer said that is the hardest and most expensive platform to develop on. I said, okay, well, forget it then. I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah.
But two things I would think help, and that is the marketing strategy or the distribution strategy probably is key. I would think, that part which involves researching what other apps are out there, what target audience, I think that's very important in the beginning. And the other side is technology is always evolving. There's a lot of sites that are, mobile-enabled websites where it doesn't matter what platform you're on, it feeds that information. So it's worth looking into that and say, can I create a mobile web based enabled solution that gives me the biggest bang for my buck across platforms, doesn't have a lot going on, isn't super sophisticated like a major game or something, to get my business out there, my brand out there, certainly from a services related perspective. It's almost, that's a better route to go. And then you don't have to worry about this repackaging.
Yeah. And that's a good point you made, because I noticed one of the companies I follow a lot, 37 Signals, I use a lot of their applications they have, and one of the applications I use on there is I don't know if you heard of it, BaseCamp. And what they did with BaseCamp is that they allow people to create apps of their tool. I guess it's branding and bringing new clients. But what 37 Signals did specifically is they didn't even create an app. What they did is they enhanced the mobile version of their software, which is a web app, so that basically it allowed people from different kind of phones, different kind of browsing, browsers, mobile browsers, to be able to get the same kind of experience. I guess that's what you said in regards of how best can you make maybe the website or the app mobile, as opposed to focusing on making a web app for one type of phone platform, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different ideas, to go and create that link between a simple interface that goes across devices, but the chunk of information is on a website that's pushing the information. So if you do it that way, again, depending on your business, then you have everything. So now you've got a website people can go to, and they can get the same, or at least some of the key information, sent to their mobile device regardless of platform. That, again, for the limited budget, limited experience, individual developer, I think that's a very serious route to take.
Yeah.
Certainly if you have the money, go for it, right? But if you don't, then that may be a better, easier, faster, more standardized way to go than getting wrapped up in some of the nuances that I did.
Definitely. And before I let you go, I was trying to find out, from entrepreneurs, why exactly do you do this? I mean, you're a busy entrepreneur doing a bunch of different activities at the same time. Why did you feel that there was need to come on here and share this content with my community?
Well, the biggest opportunity, and again, I really appreciate being able to talk about this story, is I didn't really find a lot of information on this subject for people like me. People weren't really asking, and I read all kinds of links on developing apps, and they always seemed to lead me to some, developer site, and I said, but let's really talk about this. If I'm running a successful business and I'm curious, and there's a hope that this isn't going to be too complicated, where do I go? Who do I talk to? I want to be able to tell people that I'm an example of somebody who didn't have all of these things, all these ducks in a row perfectly well, defined. I saw this need. I knew, if I don't do it, somebody else will. But given all these constraints, no programming background, no Macintosh, haven't developed, software like this ever, and going through limited budget, all these different constraints didn't get in the way of actually creating something. So, when people think like, well, how can I take my business to the next level, or how can I improve my brand by having something out there? Maybe it's a free app, maybe it's a simple app. Even if it's one of those do-it-yourself kind of things, should I bother? Should I look into it? And the answer is absolutely yes, because I could.
Yeah, and that's a story that can inspire someone else to do the same thing. And hey, you probably get the credit for that too. So I like that. And how best, Tony, can members of my community get a hold of you?
My website is www.hr4change.com, and my email is just tony@hrforchange.com. That's the best way to reach me.
Definitely, and just for those who want to check out the app, maybe to use it themselves, or get ideas of how to build the app, where is the best place for them to get to view your app?
Well, the website is iPocketCoachApp.com, and then of course you can search iPocket Coach in the Apple iTunes and as well as the BlackBerry App Store.
Thank you very much, Tony, for doing the interview. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So we're done. So welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I really want to know what exactly you think. I mean, if I suck and if I'm not doing a good job, I want to know, because by your input and your comments, your suggestions, your feedback, that's how I'm going to improve on the entire package of what I'm sharing with you. I really want to improve so that you know that your time is well spent when you watch my videos. And if I do good on interviews, and if you like certain things I do, please let me know so I can even improve upon that as well. And I want to thank you really, because your time is well spent, and your time is important to me, and I want to make sure that I continuously put this information in front of you. So I want you to join my community, and in order to do that, you need to click on the link that says get the free ebook, enter in your name and email, and you will receive as a gift from me my free ebook titled The Entrepreneur's Guide to Running a Business in the Cloud. The reason I do that is because I want to share with you that information. You can check it out and make use of it in your business. In the same vein, I will be sending you email updates every time I have new blog posts, as well as if I have new stuff that is not even on the blog, I want to share with you. That way we can stay in contact. One more thing. Before you go, I want to also let you know that if you are really serious about finding, hiring, training, and even working with virtual assistants, if right now you want to get that started, why don't you sign up for my free webinar where I share everything about the entire process? And you can get to do that by clicking on the link on the very top of my blog where it says sign up for the free webinar. Again, thanks for watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.